For round 7 and 8 of Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia, powered by AWS, we are at Sportsland SUGO. It is the first time the championship has been to this northern Japanese circuit. It's the first time an international championship has been to SUGO for something like 20 years, when World Superbikes was last here. But it is a great little circuit. It's a real challenge. It is a lot more hilly than you might think looking at a circuit map, and it's all about momentum. And as far as qualifying is concerned, it's going to be all about making sure your grid position is good for the individual races. It is one driver, one session, and the times of those sessions determine the grid for the appropriate race. You will start the race for which you qualify, and then you split them again. We've got one session for GT4, one for GT3. The start straight takes you into turns 1 and 2, double apex, right hairpin that then drops downhill. Towards the end of the first sector, you start to climb. There is a rather unforgiving curve in the middle of the S at the end of the intermediate one, up towards turns 7 and 8, where you're dropping downhill, fast back straight, another fast right, double apex fast left at the end of the second sector, and then the road climbs. And what a climb it is, and you need momentum all the way around that last corner, because it's uphill onto the start line straight. Down towards there, you can just see turns 1 and 2. It's not the widest of circuits, but it is a real challenge for the drivers, and the majority are coming here with absolutely no circuit knowledge, no data whatsoever. So it's a real step into the unknown. They did have a test yesterday morning. There was official practice yesterday afternoon, at the end of which Reid Harker in the Porsche was quickest. We're only talking about a lap round about 1:21 for the quick GT3 cars. GT4, however, will go out first. Qualifying due to get underway in about 2.5 minutes time. David Anderson trackside, and the GT4 drivers are getting themselves ready. Now, GT4, not that numerous, so we're only going to have something like 4 cars out on track. They certainly can't complain about traffic or track space, but as far as GT3 is concerned in the championship, and it could even be won in race 2 this weekend, possibly, Gt3 Ibrahim and Nick Foster head Keiko Zolino and Takeshi Kimura, with the absent Naoki Yokomitsu third. Hiroaki Nagai and Yuta Kamimura come next, ahead of another absentee pairing, Adrian De Silva and Earl Bamba, with Kandati Kusiri and Tanat Satentirunkul 6th equal in the standings. Reid Harker and Setiwan Santoso 7th, Reid Harker being the man that did the time yesterday in the official practice session. And Jasmine Jafar and Ibu Ibrahim Bakar at the bottom of that leaderboard of times. That is the exit of turn 8, looking down onto the back straight. As far as the GT4 championship is concerned, 4 drivers tie on points, and Yunta Shiro and Tatsuya Tanigawa are not here this weekend, so that gives the opportunity for Motohiro Sato and to Katsuyuki Hironaka to try to make some hay in the championship. But GT4 will be out on the circuit first. Those less powerful, less modified versions of GT cars. GT4 is a category that is getting more and more popular around the globe, but in terms of Japanese entries, there aren't that many as yet, and those teams that did have GT4 cars in this region still victims of not really being able to travel all that easily. But GT4 is going to build and build for next year, for which calendar is almost ready to be released. So, fans getting themselves ready, teams getting themselves ready, and this session, 15 minutes for the GT4 cars, has the fast lane open. The race director gives the indication that enables everybody then now to make their way down, if they're a GT4 team, to the end of the pit lane. The fastest GT4 time in the practice session yesterday was set by Formula 3 driver of years past, Shinya Hosokawa. He did a 1:29.576. There is number 99, the car that Gt3 Ibrahim shares with Nick Foster, the championship leaders within GT3. The 2 Malaysian princes this year coming into the championship, learning about GT3 racing, learning about circuits, but acquitting themselves very well indeed. The GT4 Mercedes at the other end of the pit lane are set. They're number 19 Lamborghini from the GT3 class of Hiroshi Hamaguchi and Mineki Okiura. That's going to go, of course, when we get to the GT3 element of qualifying. So it's rather Mercedes dominated for Q1, as we're going to have the cars out onto the circuit. The Mercedes coming from Comet Racing, from GTO Racing Team, from Team GMB, and then the 1 Toyota of Masayoshi Oyama, and a change of driver, Ueda Masayuki, replacing Makio Saito in that car. Then number 14 is the Brian Lee Hideto Yasuoka car, and as the lights go green at the end of the pit lane, number 71, the Akiland Racing Toyota, first on track, Masayoshi Oyama at the wheel of it. So qualifying underway, and it is, as I say, the one driver, one session regulation. So these drivers setting the grid within GT4 for race 1, which is today's race. Pressure on, therefore, not to do anything silly in this session, the entirety of qualifying, because you've got limited repair time before the first race. So a quick look at the circuits, as you have Masayoshi Oyama out on track, coming out of turn 8 onto the fast back straight where the road drops down. This on the inside of turns 1 and 2 is pit out, and the number 14 Brian Lee driven Mercedes venturing onto the circuit now. So you sort of a blend coming through turn 3, turn 4 down at the bottom of the hill there. Brian Lee for the GTO Racing team behind the wheel of the Silver Am categorised Mercedes, and Brian, somebody that came out of the Macau Road Sport Challenge before going into Carrera Cup in Japan, a regular in this championship over the years that it has run. The Comet Racing Mercedes has got Masahaki Fuji at the wheel of it to go first, and that is one of the pure GT4 AM cars. Masaki Fuji, who's raced in the Asia Pacific Ferrari Challenge before coming into what was then GT Series Asia in a Lamborghini back in 2019, of course the last year up until this, the championship had run because of the pandemic. He's also done a bit of European racing in the 24-hour series, but number 71 then of Masayoshi Oyama onto his first flying lap. Now you can see the way the car gets very, very sideways as he comes out of turn 2, drifts it down the hill. Tyres yet to get up to temperature, everybody on Pirelli rubber of course, and as the car now makes its run up the hill, coming through the sequence of corners that takes you through the so-called hairpin corner, through the S-shaped corner to High Point corner, turn 7, then down to Rainbow corner, drop down into turn 8, and onto the back straight now. Speed building all the time. This is turn 8. Don't run out too wide, because although there is a runoff area, there are those marker cones there to try and distract you. You get to the end of this long straight into backstretch corner, which is a little right-hand kink before the horseback corner itself. So there's the kink, and then you turn into the right-hander proper, and you can see the way here, because GT4 cars aren't overly blessed with aero, that the car moves around a lot. So here, number 71 Masayoshi Oyama having to really work the car as he heads up now into SP in and SP out, that double apex left-hander, and here is where the road starts to climb. You drop downhill first of all, and there at the foot of the dip is the climb, and you keep on climbing all the way up the hill. It gets steeper and steeper and steeper and steeper to about now, where it just about starts to level off over the brow, but you're still not quite at the timing line, because only as you get now over the beam does a lap time come up, and Masayoshi Oyama does a 1:23.061, 1:23, which is much, much better than people were doing at the end of yesterday. So a good start to the session for Oyama. So 1:33.061 puts him up to the top. Now Brian Lee is going to be the next driver to try and challenge that as he comes towards where SP out. So he's at the bottom of the hill, round the back of the paddock, and the road just falls away a little bit more, and then the climb. And I don't necessarily think that Brian Lee is totally committed to this lap, because he's still trying to get the tyres up to temperature. You can see some weaving going on. So as he comes now towards the timing line, snatches a gear, still jinking left and right, still trying to urge the warmth into the tyres. You only, in a sense, need one good lap, but it's got to come at the right time. So Brian Lee goes through, does go second on a 1:36.436. It was a 1:33 from Oyama, forgive me. So the margin 3.3 seconds as Brian Lee drops downhill. We've also got a lap time now out of number 33, the Team GMB Mercedes of Hiroaki Hatano, but he's in the 38s. As also, in fact, is Masaki Fuji. So it remains the Toyota ahead of all the Mercedes. The Supra, in a sense, ought to go well here. There's a huge amount of Toyota presence, because there are 2 races for the GR Yaris Cup. There's also the GR86 BRZ category that's got its own series of races this weekend. So lots of Toyota support. Through again goes Oyama, and he goes yet faster, 1:31.388. In most cases here, you've got the lower derogated driver on board, so in theory, times will be better when you get into Q2. So Masayoshi Oyama drops downhill, the Akiland Racing car, still the fastest then. And as he climbs the hill now, up towards the S, Oyama, who's raced in the TCR Japan category, has also done some single-seater racing, drove in Formula 4 in Japan, but I think has found a rather happy home in GT racing now, and he's gone quicker again on this lap in the first sector then. So now Masayoshi Oyama drops downhill, and as the pace picks up, Masayoshi Oyama quicker than anybody in the first sector by a good 0.6 or so now. Makes his way through that little kink and then into horseback corner itself down at the straight, so with absolutely no traffic around him. These laps ought to get better and better and better. Now Brian Lee has had a lap time deleted for exceeding track limits at turn 3, which is the bottom of the hill just after the first hairpin. So that's going to put Brian Lee down one place on the grid, behind 33 of Hiroaki Hatano, but up towards the timing line comes, with the car still squirming underneath him, Masayoshi Oyama. The time he's going to try and beat now is a 1:31.388. Yesterday we had them into the 29s. And what can Oyama do then at the end of this lap? Breaks the beam now, and that lap is a 1:30.405. Quicker still, even though he lost out a little bit, as you can see in the last sector, but he goes way out wide there through turn 1 into turn 2. So carried all that speed to the end of the pit straight. This is turn 3 where people are running wide, and this is the man that's lost a lap time for track limit offences, Brian Lee. So he's dropped to 3rd in class. Great sounding car, the Mercedes, as it accelerates now through the hairpin corner up towards the S. Brian Lee on this lap should go quicker. 2 personal bests, and as long as he can avoid the track limit dramas, this lap should stand for him. So he comes now up towards the timing line, and Brian Lee goes through, and that lap is a 1:31.216, puts him back to 2nd in the times, therefore. So an improvement coming from him. As far as GT4 is concerned, overall within the championship, it is Motoharu Sato who leads with Katsuyuki Hironaka, but those drivers absent this weekend. Yun Toshiro and Tatsuya Tanigawa equal on points, as you look at Hiroaki Hatano's Mercedes making its way up towards the end of the lap. Hatano is 3rd, but has gone quicker in the first sector. So Brian Lee and Hideta Yasuoka, who are 3rd in the points, have got a little bit of ground that they can make up this weekend. Some of the GT4 teams only committing to selected races, others doing the whole year. Into the pit lane now is Kamoyama's Toyota, so job done for the moment. 6.5 minutes are on the clock. The next session will be the same cars out again, but different drivers. So in a sense, if you've done all that you can, it does make sense to bail early, get the next driver on board, as coming then to the end of the next lap is Hatano. Makes his way through SP in, SP out, up towards the end of the second sector, in which he's dropped a little bit of time, actually. So he's 2 seconds or so away from where he needs to be. So Hatano now just struggling a little as he comes towards the long climb uphill. Hiroaki Hatano, the team owner. He's raced in Super Taikyu, then All Japan GT, very experienced GT racer of big powerful cars, and crosses the line to stay 3rd, and on that last lap did a 1:33.399, so he did go quicker. New tyres going on the Supra, but I suspect that's rather more in readiness for Q2. There's no real need to waste another set in this and go out and try and improve the lap time, because the time is there, the time is done. Now that Mercedes looking a little slow, which means that Masaki Fuji is not necessarily on a demon lap. He's down in the first sector. Has he got a problem? So Fuji for Comet Racing crawls round, and one would think he's coming into the pits at the end of this lap. Can't believe that he's backed out of it looking for track space, because there's nobody around him really to be a concern. So that car does rather look as though it's bailing for the pit lane come the end of the lap. So possibly a troubled Mercedes loses track position to Brian Lee's much quicker car. Now there, Brian Lee, 2 personal bests in sectors, coming up towards the timing line now, makes the long climb up the hill and over the brow, and then the road dips a little as you head up towards the beam. So the time he's going to try and beat his own 1:31.0, and he does so with a 1:30.964. So Brian Lee stays second, but narrows the margin now to Oyama. So the Mercedes fast still goes through, and he might be able to squeeze another lap out of the tyres. Everybody on Pirelli rubber in Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia, powered by AWS. And Brian Lee then turns his way up through third corner, hairpin corner, road climbs through the S's, and then into High Point corner, which is turn 7, and it is quite rightly the high point because it's higher than turn 1, which is just to the left below it, and then down towards Rainbow corner. Does your heart good to have circuits that still have corner names rather than just numbers. Way up the curb though goes Brian Lee on the exit, down the long back straight, and then that kink, which you barely notice at these speeds, the backstretch corner. Just set the car up now for horseback corner, this right-hander. So Brian Lee turns through. Now into the left of SP in, then there's SP out. You can try and take it as one corner. Yesterday it was evident how, certainly in the GT3 session, people were using all of the curb because you need a good run through there to really slingshot this section of the circuit. All that momentum on the climb up the hill because it's ever so steep from this point onwards. The chicane just to the right-hand side can be used, but they're not using it for this configuration of the circuit, as Brian Lee then tries to go quicker than a 1:30.964, which he did last time around. Down in sector 1, quicker in sector 2, slower overall, and by about a 10th, and I think that's probably his last shot. So there, number 71, getting ready for Q2 now, which will put Ueda Masayuki into the car. So the Supra gets ready, the other team's finishing a run, and then it'll be a new driver, new set of tyres, and go again. 33 of Hiroaki Hatano still pressing on. Now what, if anything, is this car going to be able to do by the end of the lap? It's gone quicker in the first sector, so Hiroaki Hatano does improve slightly, comes now towards the middle sector complete, but still doesn't look as though it's going to really be able to pull much out of the bag. It might creep closer to the pace of Brian Lee, but Hiroaki Hatano, let's see, gets to the end of the second sector. Brian Lee has just done an absolute best in the middle, interestingly. Hatano then at the end of SP out, the second of these left-hand flicks, way off the curb there, the apex. Does not look to be hooking up as easily, but it is an improvement in the second sector. Accurately presented, Mercedes and Hatano. Brian Lee's lap, incidentally, was 1:30.926, so an improvement to narrow the margin to Oyama. An absolute best bookended by 2 slower sectors. Brian Lee, that is. Hatano comes over the timing line. Third he was. Third he stays, but a better lap time, 1:32.694. And there is Brian Lee, his lap completed, and I said it was going to be his last shot the previous lap, but he stayed out, made a liar of me, went quicker, but what he is doing, he's getting a lot out of his tyres. Now he's dropped again time in the first sector, way up the curve there, coming onto the back part of the circuit, coming out of Rainbow Corner. And although, again, he gets away with that, Brian Lee really is working the car very, very hard indeed. The driver from Chinese Taipei, therefore not eligible for the Japan Cup. Everybody else is eligible for it, but not this one car. So you've got the Japan Cup, which, as the name suggests, takes the points scored in the Japanese races, the exception to that being Malaysia's opener at Sepang. And then you've got that independent championship for drivers and teams, as well as the overall Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia. Right, so Brian Lee heads uphill and is going to avoid pit-in, so he's going to stay out and just about might take the flag this time, but let's see, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, goes over the line, flag is out, so he's the first driver to take it, and does a 1:30.900 right at the very end, so gets to within half a second. It was worth staying out there, Brian Lee, and interestingly, that lap did not have a personal best in any sector for him, but it was just a better hooked up lap and more consistent sectors, so it all fit in really neatly, and Brantley stays second, but by a reduced margin. That is Hiroaki Hatano's lap completed. He stays third, quicker in sectors 1 and 2, but drops a bit of time in sector 3. So a very happy Alkeland Racing team. The Toyota team celebrates pole position then for Masayoshi Oyama. And now Masayuki Ueda has got to do it himself. There is Masayuki in the background, in the black and red overalls. And he will get on board the car in a few moments, ready to go out on track. So, at the end of Q1 for the GT4 cars, Oyama doing a time at 1 minute 30.405. That is the current pole time. But now, of course, same cars, different driver, different pace. You might see a different order come the end of this next part of qualifying. So, the drivers do a quick shuffle, and there is this break between the two parts of qualifying. One or two drivers perhaps a little bit frustrated by the pace if it's in Q1, but there are 7 minutes between parts, and then we'll get the cars for Q2 for GT4 out onto the circuit. Hiroaki Hatano and Shinya Hosokawa, winners at Suzuka. And so I think certainly when you put Hosokawa into the car in this session, that's a potential pole position entry. Hosokawa in number 33 for Team GMB, certainly a man to watch once we get the session underway. He did race for a time, admittedly 20 years ago now, in British Formula 3. Did Shinya Hosokawa, but came out of Formula Dream, the Japanese single-seater category, before he came to race in Europe. Went back to Japan, racing Formula 3 over here, the All-Japan GT Championship. He's raced in Asian Le Mans and Super GT as well. So the 41-year-old is a man to watch for Q2. But out of Q1, Masayoshi Oyama, the fastest in the Toyota, 1 minute 30.05 from Brian Lee's Mercedes. Third, Hiroaki Hatano's Mercedes, a further 2 seconds or so back. And then fourth, at the end of the session, Masaki Fuji in the Comet Racing Mercedes that did have a problem, I think, towards the end. We saw it rather slowly limping back to the pit lane. So those are the times in Q1 for GT4. Q2 beckons at the end of that 7-minute break. And the cars having a new set of tyres put on, drivers being settled into the cars, and they will be released very shortly out onto the circuit. The grid that they're setting next is going to be for tomorrow's race. Today, the race getting underway this afternoon, round about 4:10. But it'll be rather warmer, I suspect, then than it is now. It's been a rather overcast morning, but it is getting a little bit brighter and certainly warmer all the time. Quick look back at the highlights of that qualifying session that began really with Brian Lee taking the battle to the Toyota. But it was this car in the hands of Masayoshi Oyama that was always the dominant entry, and managed to do an early top time, got out ahead of the Mercedes, and then went quicker and quicker. Oyama, certainly to begin with, on cold tyres, had that car looking very lively indeed as it squirmed around the racetrack. But Oyama through to take pole position, and in the end, a 1 minute 30.405 begun time. Hiroaki Hatano's Mercedes set for third. And even though Brian Lee lost a lap with track limit offences, he was still pushing as hard as possible. Hiroaki Hatano likewise, but lost out in the last sector of his last push lap, coming over the line. So it was a very happy Oyama. The car into the pits, getting ready for Q2 as the next set of tyres went on board. And dramas for Masaki Fuji as that car limped towards the pit lane. The Comet Racing Mercedes, now I suspect with a question mark over it as to whether, if it has got a big problem, it goes out at all in Q2. So the Mercedes slowly made its way back to the pit lane. Team ready to go to work, and as it got out of the way of Hiroaki Hatano's Mercedes, compare and contrast a healthy Mercedes AMG with a not so healthy one up towards the line. Quick puff of smoke as he changed up a gear was Hatano, broke the beam, took the checker flag. So the fast lane now open. That means that the cars can make their way down to the end of the pit lane. They're on the inside of turns 1 and 2. The GT team having the garages in the pit lane and hordes of Toyotas for the support races elsewhere around the paddock. That's the exit of SP out, the end of the second sector. But the road still drops downhill as you turn in towards the so-called last corner. And this Fanatec-backed championship coming here for the first time, so fascinating to see which drivers are able to adapt to what is a pretty old school narrow circuit. In places there's limited runoff, barriers rather unforgiving. We did have the Lamborghini off the road yesterday, the Hiroshi Hamaguchi Mineki Okura car, and it took a little while to retrieve, so the pressure is on drivers not to make errors. Yes, there on the exit of turn 8 you have got a little strip of runoff tarmac. And there's also the kart circuit here, which is well used and is very busy as well. A good lap on the kart circuit. But the track itself, you can see, with grass and guardrail in certain places rather than gravel traps, certainly not with the F1 style runoff tarmac that other circuits have. So the cars are just about ready. Fast lane open, but nobody yet taking the opportunity to go to the end of the pit lane. And around the circuit, we await Q2 getting underway. Something like a 215-metre gain between the lowest to the highest point of this circuit that opened in 1975. It has been a mainstay of Japanese racing for many, many seasons, but welcoming an international championship for the first time in 20 years. Right, green flag shown at the end of the pit lane. We are in business. So out onto the circuit goes, hearteningly, the Comet Racing Mercedes. So it is going to be for this part of the session. Kazuhiro Sakai that's behind the wheel of that car. So even though it looked like it had a problem earlier on, the GT World Challenge Asia regular on track there in the Toyota. Setting off onto the circuit is Masayuki Ueda, another experienced driver. So that's the car to beat in a sense, but quickest in Q1 may not necessarily be a reflection of Q2 because of Shinya Hosokawa taking over number 33 Mercedes. Very, very gentle exit from the pit lane for the Toyota as it creeps towards the circuit. So the Mercedes of Sakai goes onto the back straight. Hosokawa is ready to go once the team gives him the signal. And again, it would make sense here in the Mercedes AMG to do just one lap, put it on pole and save the rubber. Others perhaps won't have that luxury. They'll need to chip away and try and establish a time. Brian Lee, as was, now becomes Hideta Yasuoka. So number 14 Mercedes goes out onto the circuit. Yasuoka, another driver that we saw in the UK the best part of 20 years ago when he raced in the BRDC single-seater championship and then in Formula Ford in the UK and drove in the Formula Ford Festival, going to Formula 3 in Japan, but another driver that did ply his trade for a time in Europe. So there is Hideta Yasuoka going out onto the circuit. And still Shinya Hosokawa waits for the signal. Petronas colours on the Mercedes of the GMB team, the Mercedes AMG GT4, to give it its full title, gets ready. The equivalent car of Comet Racing here then, of Kazuhiro Sakai, will start a flying lap this time and loses it. So Sakai trying to get everything up to temperature, has a big, big lose. Fires it up, gets going again. That's the car with all the body parts in English written on them, so you'll see rear fender and door and front fenders, so people know what they're looking at. But a big, big slide and lost it, so Sakai gets going now, but let's hope he's not damaged that set of tyres. Number 71, the Toyota in the hands of Masayuki Ueda, comes through. Whoops, a little bit of tyre squeal and a twitch as he goes into the S's, so again, drivers coping with cold tyres here, but pushing on nonetheless is Ueda. turn 8 onto the back part of the circuit. We did see this car, in fairness, being quite lively in Q1, so once the tyres are up to temperature, it might look a bit more stable, but it does give the driver a bit of a handful, this long-nosed Toyota, which always seems to be very high off the ground, the ride height compared to other cars, discernible. There, number 33 then is out on the track, so Shinya Hosokawa behind the wheel of the Mercedes-AMG onto the circuit, and this will be a tip for pole position, surely. So the experienced Hosokawa has let everybody else go, bringing everything up to temperature, and then one lap to nail this, and he ought to take pole position in class. The time he's going to be after is going to be really between him, I suspect, and the Toyota Supra once more, Masayuki Ueda. So over the timing line goes Ueda, goes through. Toyota with that great engine note comes downhill, and the first flying lap that he did was 1:35.746. We're about 5 seconds away then from what they did towards the end of Q1, but inevitably times will come down. Rattles it up the curb going through the S. And quicker than anybody in Sector 1 up through High Point Corner, down towards Rainbow Corner. As the road drops away, this is where the speed builds. 2 wheels over the curb, 2 wheels on the tarmac, that's all good. Now fastest of all goes Hideto Yasuoka at 1:34.488. So you're looking at the Toyota that is quicker than anybody in Sector 1, but has dropped a second in the times, taking on as the lone Toyota the might of the Mercedes-AMG fleet. And Yasuoka goes to the top. Hosokawa we need a lap time out of as well. So this could be where the Supra ends up having to fight very, very hard indeed. And again, you see how cars will rise and fall during the course of the races, depending on who's behind the wheel. Always one of the fascinations of double driver racing. Right, Sakai goes quickest now. So Kazuhiro Sakai to the top of the times, 1:32.215. That puts him 2.2 seconds ahead of anybody else. But here comes Masayuki Ueda over the brow, over the beam, and where does that one put him? It puts him back onto pole position, 1:30.851, 4/10 away from his co-driver. So back to the top of the times, back to pole goes number 71 Supra. This straight away looking a lot more competitive than Q1 did. Of course, the GT4 cars qualify on their own just to give them the track space, and also, in fairness, to give the GT3 cars the track space. It's a regulation carried over from the British GT Championship. But they will, of course, race with the GT3 cars, so they will be towards the rear of the pack, but having their own battle. Right, Hideto Yasuoka has now dropped to 4th in the times, but look at this, 2 absolute bests in the sectors, and as he goes across the line, 3 absolute bests, gives him the best GT4 time of the day, 1:28.768. So that's a second and a half quicker than Oyama went in Q1. So a really, really good effort, that, by Hideto Yasuoka. Downhill, 8 minutes are still on the clock, so he's got plenty of time left, yes, in which he can go faster. The trouble is he's got time in which others can go faster as well. Rides the curb, you don't want to go crashing over it too much, because if you do over the course of an hour's race, then you'll do damage to the underfloor of the car. Now toward the turn 8, Rainbow Corner comes Yasuoka. I was about to suggest that he backed off because it all looks so unruffled, but he hasn't yet gone faster in Sector 1, better than anybody. Over the line comes Ueda once more in the Supra, and that lap keeps him second, 1:30.314. Into turn 1, lift into turn 2, snake your way down the hill. So Masayuki Ueda in the Akilan Racing entry, in now to turns 3 and 4. The road starting to climb. Now the Comet Racing Mercedes of Sakai has dropped down to 3rd in the times. Kazuhiro Sakai at the wheel of it. And comes now into the right-hander. Heads towards the completion of the lap. You've got also Hosokawa second. Now he's 0.17 over second down. He's just gone through with 2 personals and an absolute best, but he's got to find 0.17 over second, the Shinya Hosokawa, to go on to pole position in class. GT4 always starts at the back of GT3, irrespective of whether a GT4 time is better than a GT3, the 2 split grids. But Hosokawa here looking good. Is it good enough? Yes, because he's more quicker than anybody in the first sector. wringing the neck of the Mercedes AMG is Hosokawa now. The car drops out of turn 8 down the hill once more by 46 thousandths. Then he's gone quicker than anybody in that first sector, and he will get to the end of sector 2 once he's come through the SP in, SP out sequence. So down now towards horseback corner he turns through the right on the power, drags the car out the other side, and then into that double apex left-hander. First part, second part now. Doesn't use as much curve as some have been doing over the weekend, but what's it like at the end of sector 2? It's another purple, so 2 absolute bests here for Shinya Hosokawa, and that gives him good momentum now with 5 minutes on the clock still coming up the hill. The timing beam awaits, he runs it right up to the edge of the white line. This ought to be pole position for him. Is it going to be in the 27s potentially? Hosokawa comes through, and is he confirmed as being on pole position? No, because he's lost out in the last sector and he's dropped 92 thousandths, and therefore Hosokawa stays second. It all looks so good coming into the last sector, but he lost out and has dropped 92 thousandths and therefore does not get pole position after all. So Yasuoka survives, Hideto Yasuoka's time survives, and Hosokawa, I think, will be a bit surprised about that. It didn't look as though he was doing anything wrong. It didn't look like he was going out wide or the car sliding in that last sector, which would have cost him the time, so just did not seem to get the run up the hill. If anything, it looks nervous there at 7 as it just slides towards the curve a little bit. So let's see what Hosokawa can do this lap. Well, he's done another absolute best within the first sector. There's confirmation of it, and he's a 10th up at that point. Clock ticking away. What he's aiming for is better than a 1:28.474. Only has to be better by 1,000th, but better it must be. Through horseback corner he comes, and there it's not an easy compliant car by the look of it. He missed the apex, there was a bit of correction needed. Darts around the road there as he hustles it into SP in. And let's see what the second sector shows as he breaks the beam. Another absolute best. So this is where it went wrong a lap ago. Looks good, as it did on the previous lap. Looks quick, doesn't look like he's fighting the car here. It's one gradual radius corner up the hill. Looks smooth, looks quick, looks tidy, but does it look fast? Over the brow, up towards the timing beam comes Shinya Hosokawa, and this time as he goes through, stays second. This time 11 thousandths away. All that effort, and it's the last sector again. So this is a car that just does not want to get up the hill, seemingly. It's hard work coming out of turn 2. You can see the amount of effort that's being put into it. But Shinya Hosokawa has got the thing by the scruff of the neck, but the Mercedes AMG ain't responding, certainly in that last sector. And there's no sign of it sliding around there. There is at other parts of the circuit. He's just done another absolute best in sector 1 as down the pit lane comes number 14 then. So Hideto Yasuoka pits. That, I suspect, might be it for the session. The car stays on the pit apron, but Yasuoka might be released, but I wouldn't have thought there was very much point, really. Because even if he does go back out, would he be able to do a start-up lap and a flying lap in time? Well, he's there just in case the car of Hosokawa is able to finally go onto the top spot. So Hosokawa is in the middle sector, studying all of this, the GTO racing team, and Hosokawa is down in sector 2. So it doesn't look as though pole position is going to come his way after all. But it's this last sector that's the really mysterious bit. It always looked good, but the clock says different. Up towards the brow, over it now comes Hosokawa, up towards the timing beam, and the lap time that he generates is a 1:31.6, so a much slower lap. And the car had been looking nervous at the start of the lap, so I don't think he's going to be able to respond now. 2.5 minutes on the clock, but a bit of a question mark really over where the pace was going coming up the hill. Might be in the gearing, might be something rather more sinister. They're number 4, now the slowest, in fact, of the 4 in the session. Kazuhiro Sakai heading towards the end of the session. So Sakai's best lap is a 1:32.2, and no improvement coming in the sectors on this lap. Almost questions why he would stay out, and is he going to head for the pit lane? No, but it's not as flowing a line, doesn't have a commitment as a Hosokawa lap did, for example, or a Yasuoka lap did earlier on. So over the line goes Sakai. That lap was a 36.0, very slow in comparison with what he was doing. In terms of why stay out if you're going slower, part of it is for mileage. And interestingly, number 14 Mercedes is coming back out. Now, I don't know that it will have time to do an out lap and go on to a flying lap before the end of the session. But Hideta Yasuoka has been allowed back out. You'll see there the blue Mercedes. If he's on his toes, he might get around to do a flying lap, but he's not on his toes, so the purpose of sending him out remains less obvious here. So the GTO Racing Team entry comes out of turn 8, and Hideta Yasuoka pole position by 11 1/1000ths of a second, but Hosokawa is into the pit lane. Also, Masayuki Ueda is in the pit lane. Work done. But Yasuoka's lap is only going to bring him round to the checkered flag. The only reason for going out, potentially, is that they've done something that he wants to check and just get a feel for. But the checkered flag is going to be out before he gets to the timing line. By the look of it, well, he might just squeeze another lap out of it because the climb up the hill, but so little pace that he's going for the pit lane. Yeah, so Hideta Yasuoka out straight back in again. The flag is going to be shown eventually to a car, but there's only one still circulating, and it's Sakai who is on the track. Everybody else in the pit lane now. So Yasuoka takes pole position in the GTO Racing Team Mercedes AMG GT4 for tomorrow's race, and into the technical check area. A rather bored official waits for a car to show his flag out there, but there's going to be possibly Kazuhiro Sakai as he takes the flag in the pit lane. Just about every Japanese car maker represented in the signage around this circuit. Tyre manufacturer, but there is the Sakai Mercedes. So coming out of horseback corner comes number 4 Mercedes AMG now, and there's no purpose, there's no benefit for staying out rather than taking the flag in the pits, but we'll see whether Sakai wants the mileage. Again, so many drivers new to the place, some know Super GT in years past, but so many new. It's about learning the circuit, and each lap you do is going to help in that respect. So there, the GTO Racing Team with Hideta Yasuoka, provisional pole position for tomorrow's race, fastest in Q2. Helmet and hands device off, balaclava off, earplugs out, gum shield out.
Good job, mate. Very fast.
Kai Kozolina is going to say well done.
The Yaris, right?
Really?
Yeah. It's worse than yesterday's yeah.
Finally.
Fucking decent car. Yes.
So track conditions perhaps not as good as yesterday's, for what we eavesdropping on drivers saying. If the Toyota National Championships have been out this morning and put something on the circuit, that's going to affect things, but Brian Lee and Hideta Yasuoka celebrate pole position finally. A very happy team.
My last corner. Yes, it was very fast.
Well, very fast, says Yasuoka, and fast he was. He is the quickest. Then by just 11 thousandths of a second, it's going to be a good battle between Yasuoka and Hosokawa in GT4 when we get to the start of tomorrow's race. Compare and contrast, though, Q1, where the best time was 1 minute 30.405 to Q2, 1 minute 28.474 for Yasuoka in Mercedes number 14. So it does again show the difference of pace of drivers. Well, the next part of qualifying is going to be for the GT3 drivers that will start today's race, their qualifying session coming up. And then we get to the second driver for the GT3 cars, which will determine tomorrow's grid, the qualifying session with these little breaks between each part, and then 15 minutes on track. So to confirm, Hideto Yasuoka taking the top time within Q2 in GT4, 1 minute 28.474, just 11 thousandths of a second from Shinya Hosokawa, and then third fastest Masayuki Ueda in the Toyota Supra, with Kazuhiro Sakai fourth quickest for Comet Racing in the Mercedes. The two silver AMs ahead of the pure AM entries, as you would anticipate. It's the silver driver, the more experienced, doing the work for the cars. And quick look back at what happened in Q2 as the pit lane went green. Mercedes out first, then Toyota, then Mercedes, and then biding his time before he went out with Shinya Hosokawa. He went out late, but eventually did go out and oh so nearly got pole position. This early spin came from Kazuhiro Sakai, and the initial top time offered up by Masayuki Ueda, but the Toyota not able to hang on in there in Q2 like he did in the first session, because the Mercedes AMGs collectively able to bring the lap times down. Through the S up the curve went Ueda. As to the timing line came Yasuoka. Mercedes looking very strong all through the session, and Hideto Yasuoka doing a lap time of 1 minute 28.4, which nobody ever got near. That car remaining the fastest to the end of the session. The man that did the challenging though was Shinya Hosokawa, and he came oh so close, but lap after lap after lap, it was this last sector that just was the undoing of him. 92 thousandths he missed out by in his first run, 11 thousandths he missed by on his second, and although the car looked really strong everywhere else, not strong enough in sector 3. And so number 14 Mercedes topping the times of Hideto Yasuoka. As to the end of the session came Kazuhiro Sakai. In the end, he was the only driver still circulating. So GT4 qualifying done, 2 grid orders decided. Now we turn our attention to the Gt3 cars. The fast lane is open. Yesterday, the best time that we had in the official practice session at the end of the day was the Reid Harker's Porsche 1 minute 28.5 from Jasmine Jafar's Mercedes 121.6, and he in turn was only 21 thousandths quicker than Kai Cozzolino's Ferrari, which has taken 2 race wins, the opening race at Suzuka, the opening race a week later at Fuji. The one car that didn't do anything really yesterday was the number 99 Mercedes of Jeffrey Ibrahim and Nick Foster, because that had a off early on in the tests in the hands of Jeffrey Ibrahim, which did quite a bit of damage to the engine, and that needed replacing before the official practice. They got away with it because it was in the test, but what they certainly for the AM are on the back foot in terms of mileage. Jeffrey Ibrahim needing the track time, and he's lost a big chunk of it. They could win the championship in race 2, but a good result in race 1 is pretty important to that. A good result in qualifying is important to that in advance. So we'll see as he learns the track and gets faster all the time what Jeffrey Ibrahim can offer up in this next 15 minutes of qualifying. So in the forests and the mountains of northern Japan, the area around Sugo, very popular ski resort in winter months, but the circuit here very busy with races, with track days. There's a good kart circuit, there's a motocross circuit, a huge amount of land. It is Japan's biggest motorsport facility in terms of the amount of real estate that it covers, even though the circuit itself is a lap is only relatively short, just 2.2 miles. There's the kart circuit, which again is a good lap, gets a lot of use during the week. And GT3 teams now coaxing cars out onto the pit apron, ready to go. So this session will be underway any moment. With number 60 already at the end of the pit lane, ready to go. Kai Nakanishi in the LM Corsa Ferrari, car that runs in the Pro-Am category, ready to go. And here, with a busier circuit, it could well be that track position is going to be important. Certainly we are going to have cars doing a bit more overtaking in this than we did in just the 4 cars in GT4, so it's going to be a rather more urgent feel to the session. temperatures going up. The warmer it gets, the more engines get strangled. So teams, I don't think, are going to have a problem with the temperatures, but the rubber going down onto the road as well. There, number 27, the Yogibo Racing Ferrari, Naoki Yokomitsu, will go first. And the officials in the pit lane making sure that regulations are adhered to, and in due course the lights at the end of the pit lane can go green. Number 47 is there, Satoshi Hoshino, the vastly experienced Japanese driver. Of course, had that accident in race 2 at Suzuka. Number 7, the Suzuka winning Honda of Yusuke Yamasaki will go first. That was the car that won race 2. After the 4 safety car periods that we had, it came from the back of the Gt3 grid, but did a great job, helped by those safety cars and pitting at the right time. But now it is all down to pure pace. This is where it is man and machine versus the clock, and the session should be underway any moment. In fact, as we await the indication for about half a minute, I think, from getting the cars out on track. There, the LM Corsa Ferrari. So Kai Nakanishi will go first. He will do Q1. Nakanishi, who we have seen in the championship in years past. Back in 2019, he was 4th in the championship, racing the Intercontinental Le Mans Cup as well. There, that was the experienced Satoshi Hoshino in that rebuilt D-Station Aston, as the lights go green at the end of the pit lane and everybody goes streaming out onto the circuit now then. So relatively few prepared to hang back. They need to get out onto the circuit. They need to get the lap in here. Just finishing off about Hoshino, the 61-year-old Japanese driver, go back absolute decades at the start of his career. And treble 7 of Takeshi Kimura, who was the inspired tyre choice that gifted them the race win despite an early tangle in the first Fuji race. Let's see what happens now. The Sugo circuit, can 3 race wins come across 3 weekends back to back. 888 goes out with Abu Ibrahim at the wheel of the car. As far as the championship is concerned, it is Jeffrey Ibrahim and Nick Foster ahead on 105 points from Kai Kozolino and Takeshi Kimura on 75, so he could be sewn up this weekend. It is unlikely, and good results from Kozolino and Kimura are going to be essential to that. They are on target to win the Japan Cup with still Okayama to go, and then behind is Naoki Yokomitsu. Sadly missing this weekend, Hiroaki Nagai and Yuta Kamimura's Porsche Center Okazaki entry, not able to run. Right, so their number 8 Porsche is, for this session, Setiwan Santosa, but it's the car that was quickest yesterday afternoon when Reid Harker was behind the wheel of it. So, one to watch. And number 2, which is the Team Uematsu entry of the patron, Tadao Uematsu, is under investigation for its pit lane release. There's confirmation from race control. So, as that car was brought from the garage onto the fast lane, it did so, the opinion of some, dangerously, and that is going to be looked at. Another class that could be won this weekend is in the GT3 part of it, the AM Cup, where AMAC, Andrew McPherson, and Ben Porter share this Porsche. Stalwart GT and sports car racer is Andrew McPherson, whether it's been in World Challenge, whether it's been back home, he's raced all sorts of cars and enjoys this championship. He and Ben Porter have made a good double act over the years. He goes back to racing Moslers, to Radicals, there's Andrew McPherson, and then more recently Porsches. There is then Setiwan Santoso, and the McLaren goes through Tadao Uematsu, number 60 Ferrari behind Kai Nakanishi. Now you start to see what the traffic can do. Hoshino is the man doing good sectors at the moment. There he is, and the British Racing Green Aston is going to offer up the gun time, 1:25.360 then. That's the first proper lap time that we see. But again, that is some way adrift of what people were doing yesterday. So Hoshino, for the moment, is the fastest, but there's more to come as the session wears on, we should get them, I would have thought, into the high 1-minute 20s come the very end. But again, you can see as the cars squirm and ride the curb, it does look as though the grit isn't quite as good as it was at the end of yesterday, which was a much warmer day. Tana Satrin-Tirakul goes third. Hoshino quicker again in the first sector here. One new car this weekend, which is the Audi team Itotsuyama entry of Motohiro Ogura and Akihiro Suzuki. They're regulars from Super GT, the AMS, and coming across to Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia, powered by AWS, and having a look at it with a view maybe to coming on board full-time next year. Hoshino looking good then in sector 1, nobody else doing purples as yet, so he's commanding the pace and does so again in sector 2 as well, comes through looking strong. Satoshi Hoshino up now towards the timing line, and as he makes the climb up the hill over the brow, this is going to be a lap, should be in the 24s if not better. Goes through, and the 23, in fact, 1 minute 23.010. So he lost out in the last sector because the McLaren of Tadao Uematsu has gone faster in sector 3 now. Nakanishi is up to third. Still quite a few times and quite a few drivers yet to really feed into this, but a third of the session has elapsed already. An improvement comes from to be ninth now. And further improvements come in the first sector by Hoshino. Now, how is 888 getting on? This is Abu Ibrahim, and third fastest. David Punn now goes up to third fastest, in fact, 123.954 in the Audi. David Punn sharing with Sean Tong. So 9.5 minutes are on the clock, and an absolute best in the first sector now from 888 of Abu Ibrahim, one of the two 888 Mercedes AMGs, the same 888 powerhouse that's dominated supercars, previously V8 supercars in Australia for many, many years. And coming across to World Challenge Asia just before the pandemic, but has had great success in the Bathurst 12 hours. And Nick Foster and Jasmine Jafar part of the squad this year with the two Royal Princes. So the order now is Hoshino Uematsu, Pan up to third. Yamaguchi is now fourth fastest. Tomohiro Yamaguchi in the Plus Racing, Plus with BMW Team Studi entry. There to the timing line goes the Honda, and pick up the Mercedes that makes the climb up the hill. That is number 99, so that is Jeffrey Ibrahim, who is only 11th at the moment as he learns about the circuit. On to fourth in the times goes Abu Ibrahim. So 123.068 puts him up the order. As now, Tanat Satrin-Tirakul in the Porsche goes quickest. Treble 7 Ferrari, the car guy racing entry of Takeshi Kimura looks quick, but he's only 13th fastest. But Kimura is doing personal bests in sectors now. So, I mean, we know that a lot of the work in that car is going to be done by Consolino, but even so, a good effort being required from Kimura to get it in the mix. Into the pit lane has gone Hiroshi Hamaguchi in the Lamborghini. And number 19, yes, the Lamborghini with what looks like rear wing damage, I'm led to believe. So that car has come into the pit lane, but the Lamborghini then poses the question as to how the rear wing damage has come, and the next question, how much time will it lose effecting repairs? Takeshi Kimura, first of all, we'll look at as he comes up towards the line. Hoshino is back to the top in the Aston, 122.363. Kimura 13th at the start of the lap. The car guy racing Ferrari breaks the beam now by the end of the lap, goes fourth fastest. So Takeshi Kimura 123.022, good lap time that. Hiroshi also up to sixth briefly. David Punn goes back ahead of him. That's the man that's fastest thus far then. Tana Satrin-Tirakul in the number 18 Porsche, the AWS Motorsport entry. Gt3 Cars quicker again in the first sector. So Gt3 Cars, the 29-year-old Thai driver, comes then now out of the horseback corner. Very experienced single-seater racer to begin with, Formula Renault Euro Cup, Formula Masters. He's raced in the Toyota Racing Series, in Spanish Formula 3, in the FIA Formula 3 Championship, but more recently concentrating on Porsche's Carrera Cup Asia, in what was then GT Series Asia back in 2019, and did drive in the European Endurance Round at Paul Ricard back in the summer. Over the line goes Gt3 Cars and stays quickest with a lap time now 1 minute 21.582. Now, the combination of Gt3 Cars and Candidate Kursiri is going to be an interesting one, because Gt3 Cars has been the quicker of the two. Kursiri, certainly at Suzuka, made the odd error, but Gt3 Cars, we know, is rapid, and if he can get that car and keep that car up near the pointy end in his stints, then it gives him a good chance for the race. But now he's in traffic. Look, he's got Kimura just up the road ahead of him with 5 more minutes to go. We've not yet had a lap time out of the Yogibo Ferrari. Naoki Yokomitsu, and a red flag is being shown, so the session is being stopped. Car off the road somewhere, and it is the Audi that's hit the barriers and brought the barriers with it around the rear wing. That is David Punn off the racetrack. So he's had a moment, and as you can see, caught the tyre stack, even though they're in those bundles with the sheeting around them, and David Punn in the X-Works Audi has brought that with him. So the car's in an awkward place, and the barriers need repairing. The car didn't look that damaged, you've got to say, but the red flag is out anyway. There's no way that he's going to be able to drive the car back there with the barriers hooked around the back of it. So David Punn off the road, red flag comes out, and with 5 minutes on the clock, the session will be restarted. But for the teams that were on a quick lap, it rather reduces the chances of being able to improve now, because you lose from those 5 minutes and 22 seconds a lap time by getting out of the pits, and then of course another lap getting things back up to operating temperature. So it's come at just the wrong moment as Gt3 Cars arrives in the pit lane. There is a rather frustrated David Punn out of the car, the Chinese driver. So tells the marshal he's okay, waits for the car to be retrieved and moved. Probably shouldn't be showing his Aston Martin underwear under his Audi overalls there. So that's the car that's fastest then. The number 18 AAS Motorsport EBM Giga Racing, as was entry of Gt3 Cars and Candidate Kursiri. And that's the Audi that needs retrieving. So the marshals, I think, possibly looking for a lifting point in the car's section. There, Takeshi Kimura's car guy Ferrari into the pit lane. Just wonder whether one or two of the teams think, well, not going to do much in only 3 proper minutes of the session. Let's get the cars ready for Q2. And, it'll be interesting to see how many do venture back out once the session goes live again. Car guy Ferrari is heading into its position at 45 degrees to the fast lane. But yeah, the Yogibo Ferrari, I just got to the point of saying, had not yet done a flying lap. So Naoki Yokomitsu, and it's not him that's caused the red flag either, had gone out late, and this could all have gone against them, in fact, because if they were trying to time it late in the session, then the stoppage coming at the wrong moment. So number 91 Audi, the team hoping will be brought back to them so they can get that car prepped for Q2. Right now that car sits by the side of the circuit, and we're under red flag conditions as there. 888 is the car 6th fastest, Jeffrey Ibrahim. In the background you see Jasmine Jafar just to the left, looking at the sister car. that the car that was fastest, Satoshi Hoshino's D-Station Racing Aston. As you see from the sticker on the front, it's part of the Japan Cup as well. D-Station, as we've seen at Le Mans, as well as in the Asian Le Mans Series and selected WEC rounds. And Satoshi Hoshino himself, hugely experienced driver. And then third fastest, Takeshi Kimura in the car guy Ferrari, and fourth at the time of the stoppage was the number 2 McLaren of Tadai Uematsu. Fifth fastest, number 5, the BMW. Not really seen that, but Tomohiro Yamaguchi, fifth fastest, and then sixth, 888 of Abu Ibrahim. So where's 99? 12th, in fact, is Jeffrey Ibrahim at the moment. A long way down after missing the bulk of the running yesterday. That car still trying to get itself back up to speed. It shouldn't be a factor, I wouldn't have thought, to the same extent for Nick Foster as the pro, but for the AM, needing the track time, very important, especially when it's a difficult circuit here. So shouldn't be too long before we get things back underway. And when we do, it'll be the battle on again between Porsche, Aston Martin, Ferrari and McLaren at the pointy end of the grid. But as I say, I don't know how many laps they're going to get in, really, with an outlap. As you look at Alex Young, who runs the Audi, a former Grand Prix racer in the crash helmet, somewhat frustrated that the car is still out on the circuit. He wants it back in the pit lane, then it can be prepped for Q2. So the Malaysian driver showing his frustration. So as soon as that Audi is out of harm's way, then the race control team can get things towards the green flag to get us back on track. Looking down from turn 2 across the paddock with hordes of Toyotas here for the national races this weekend. So the marshals and the recovery team will be going to work and trying to get the Audi away from the barrier. Kai Cosadino gets himself ready for Q2. Third, the car for the first race, provisionally, which is a good effort from the Italian-Japanese driver's co-driver, Takeshi Kimura. Kai Cosadino we first saw in European racing going well in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo a few years back, but he's come back to making a name for himself in Japan. Right, so the teams with the cars ready to go. Car guy Ferrari, oh so distinctive, the bright yellow car, which is another feature of racing in this region. The very, very distinctive colour schemes that you get. You don't get quite the same creativity and the same bright colours in European or American racing. But some drivers, as you can see, staying in the cars, getting ready to go out. There is Takeshi Kimura. Teams stand by, ready to fire up the engines. And the fast lane is going to open in about a minute's time, just over a minute, so we're not far off getting things back underway, says the race director, around this 2.228 mile or 3.586 kilometre circuit of SUGO, the SUGO International Circuit, at this very, very busy facility up in northern Japan. And the first time the championship has been here, so for a number of drivers, their first experience of the circuit. 5 minutes and 22 seconds of Q1 remains. Then we've got that 7-minute break and reset for Q2. These times offering up for today's grid. And Tanat Satintirakul the fastest by 7/10 of a second, which in fairness to him is quite a margin. The number 18 Porsche, in terms of the championship, 6th. He and Kandate Kosiri stand at the moment. And as the drivers and the teams are set, 2-3 flying laps, probably no more than that, they're going to be able to get in. And as I suggested a few moments ago, it might be that some don't go out. There is a team that needs to, very definitely, because no lap time yet set by Naoki Yokomitsu. So a wave, but a rather nervous wave from the team, because they need that car to do a lap time. Not even a banker lap has been done yet. So engines fire. The fast lane is about to open, which welcomes the cars to the end of the pit road. Tanat Sutter and Tirakul gets set, ready to go in number 18 Porsche. And the fast lane is now open. We await a green flag at the end of it. The Yogibo garage, Yogibo Racing, Kyoto Fujinami waits. So the queue of cars starts to build at the end of the pit road, and then the race direction team in a moment should give the instruction to go green. So again, the Ferrari that's keenest is that of the LM Corsa team of Kai Nakanishi. Other teams send their cars to the end of the pit lane, but the danger then is they just sit in the traffic and get hot. So if it's a long hold at the end of the pit lane, it doesn't really do them that much good. So you're better off keeping the car when the pit lane lights have gone green. If you're not at the head of the queue, just send the car out late anyway. So the queue is building, but as yet no green flag. Now we get the green, and we are in business then for the resumption of Q1. Of Motohiro Ogura, that's on track there. Also the BMW number 5, the Plus Racing with BMW Team Studi car of Tomohiro Yamaguchi. The AAA Mercedes rumble out, the Mercedes AMG GT3 Evos. Jeffrey Ibrahim in one, Abu Ibrahim in t'other. So they go out as a fleet. And the one to watch is going to be number 27 when he is on the track. So the Yogibo Racing Ferrari badly damaged, of course, that car in race 1 at Suzuka. So a bit on the back foot, but we know that both Yokomitsu and Fujinami are quick drivers. So 4 minutes and counting. As you can see from those that are still shown as being in the pits, Sutter and Tirakul has not yet gone out, may not choose to, because if people aren't going to be able to improve, David Punn, frustratingly, was on for a quick time just before he fell off the road, having done 2 personal bests. It was in that last sector where he got off the road. So Kai Nakanishi here comes out of turn 2 onto a flying lap now. The Alpine Stars backed car. Sutter and Tirakul and Hoshino stay in the pit lane. And the LM Corsa Ferrari squirms up there from the hairpin corner through the S-shaped corner, as it's called, the S's. And now out of Rainbow Corner onto the back straight with cam number 60 Ferrari. Now speed building all the time. Jeffrey Ibrahim doing a personal best in the first sector. The Lamborghini of Hiroshi Hamaguchi with that rear wing damage staying in the pits. It has not ventured out, and although that red flag has helped to a degree because they were able to get some work done without wasting session time, they've still not been able to send the car back out. So Hamaguchi, who doesn't often go off the road, is a long way down on the GT3 grid for today's race, therefore. So Nakanishi comes up towards the line, and he is down in the sectors, so ignore this lap from him. He's going to be able to squeeze 2 more out of the session, though. They're in formation, 888 ahead of 99. Abu Ibrahim ahead of Jeffrey Ibrahim as they come up towards the timing line together. The engine change that 99 needed yesterday certainly wasn't on 888's to-do list, and cost them quite a lot of running. Over the line they go together. And the lap from Gt3 Ibrahim was an improvement to 125.199, and Yokomitsu has now gone 11th. So rather than being 16th and last, up to 11th fastest now has gone the Yogibo Racing Naoki Yokomitsu Ferrari. And he should be able to go even faster, I'd have thought, before the end, as I say, with the potential of 2 more laps to ring out of it. There in the background is the pale blue Ferrari. That's the one to watch. So 888 comes downhill. That is Abu Ibrahim, rather Gt3 Ibrahim behind. But if we get a long shot, you should be able to see number 27 Ferrari steaming along behind them. So coming towards the end of the first sector, Naoki Yokomitsu quicker again, another personal best, not an absolute best, interestingly, but the lap times are coming to him. There are the Mercedes. Where's the Ferrari? Where's the Ferrari? Not yet in shot. So up towards the completion of the lap they come through SP in, SP out. 888 Abu Ibrahim down in the sectors. 99 Gt3 Ibrahim is quicker in the sectors. So the second of these cars should be an improver. We've just had an improvement from number 7 now of Yusuke Yamasaki in the Honda, the one at Fuji. Over the timing line now goes 99, up to 11th, then goes Gt3 Ibrahim. So he did improve, and let's see 27 go across the timing line. Second fastest, Yokomitsu. So now Naoki Yokomitsu goes second, 0.292 of a second. He's running behind these 2 Mercedes. And goes second on the grid. So he's only really done 2 flying laps, the second of which good enough to put him second on the grid. There is the Ferrari in the background. So the Mercedes come down the hill, flashing the lights to any traffic up the road. But there in the background is the Ferrari, 27th. The checkered flag is out. And another personal best in the first sector here by Yokomitsu. So Naoki Yokomitsu, it was a race win with Kai Cossolino at Fuji going back many, many years when they shared the Lamborghini together. Yokomitsu could be on here for pole position. He's got to find just effectively 3/10. Well, he's found 61 thousandths of that in the first sector. He's got a bit more to find yet. He's also got traffic up the road, which in a degree might help because he's got something to aim against up towards the timing line. This will be his last shot. 1 car for the pit lane is the BMW, up towards the line. 2 personal bests in the sectors. Is this going to be pole position for Yokomitsu as he breaks the beam now? And the answer is no, misses out by 81 thousandths of a second. Oh, so close. And again, it was that last sector that just cost Yokomitsu the opportunity, but we got to him and not quite able to take pole position for Yogibo Racing. But it was a very, very good effort, wasn't it? Naoki Yokomitsu second, but it is Porsche from Ferrari, the top 2, Aston Martin 3 and Ferrari 4. That's the order as the flag goes out. So at the end of the first session for the Gt3 cars, Tanat Satoru Tirakul, it is on a 1:21.582 that takes the time. We know that Porsche was good because of the way that Reid Harker went yesterday when he did a 1:21.586. So that time of Satoru Tirakul, 4 thousandths faster than that car, number 8, did yesterday in the practice session in the hands of a different driver. Whereas Setiwan Santoso ends the session 13th, treble 7 there of Takeshi Kimura 4th. And Kimura has, yes, taken the checkered flag, so this is his in lap. There's no chance of an improvement coming on this last lap. He'll be heading for the pit lane. So the cars now 5 minutes and they will be able to rejoin the circuit. So time for driver change, tyre change, that's all, no refueling. Not that you would want the car to be heavier anyway, you've got to fuel it for the 2 sessions combined. So again, the car will be lighter for Q2. Kandati Kosiri will take over then from Tanat Satoru Tirakul, who's done a very good job there, the Thai driver, to go quickest for AAS Motorsport, the Earl Bamber Motorsport operated car. Down the pit lane comes the sister entry of Setiwan Santoso to give way now to Reid Harker. And in a number of cases, again, you've got the faster driver taking over for Q2, so this should be another interesting session. Another 15 minutes ahead of us. The pit lane, fast lane, opens in a minute, and then in just about 3.5 more minutes, the lights go green. There, ready to go, is Kennedy Kusiri. Thumbs up as he gets himself ready for his qualifying period. So as the Audi of Motohiro Ogura gets a new set of tyres onto it, Akihiro Suzuki will take it over. We also need to see whether the David Punn, now Sean Tong Audi goes out. This is how we look at the end of Q1 though. So this is today's grid. Tanat Satorin Tirakul by 81 thousandths ahead of Naoki Yokomitsu and Satoshi Hoshino third. Takeshi Kimura down to fourth. Fifth fastest, number 2, McLaren of Tado Uematsu, and 6th, the BMW Tomohiro Yamaguchi at the wheel. 7th, Abu Ibrahim ahead of number 7, the Honda of Yusuke Yamasaki. 8th, the quickest he was. 9th before he went off, David Punn's Audi, and 10th, number 16, the Absa motorsport car of Koitsumi Hiroshi. Then 11th fastest, the Ferrari number 60. Kai Makinishi ahead of Jeffrey Ibrahim, then Setiwan Santoso with Hiroshi Hamaguchi with some damage, 14th, and Andrew McPherson rounding out the top 15 in GT3. Look at the highlights of that session. Cars venturing out on track. Early top time offered up by Satoshi Hoshino. Aston Martin getting a time out of the car early on. 888, the Abu Ibrahim Mercedes, the quicker of the 2 888 entries early on, and staving off the challenge of his brother before the red flag. Takeshi Kimura's car guy Ferrari was looking very rapid as well as he powered his way up towards the timing line. 4th come the end of the session for Travel 7 then. It was looking good for Porsche as the Tanat Satorin Tirakul entry threaded its way through the traffic up towards a timing line and to the top time. The Albamba squad operated the car the fastest, and even after a red flag, nobody was able to get near that time. Not for the want of trying. The red flag was caused though by this moment, David Punn going off the road. That therefore brought everybody into the pit lane, and it meant that there was a reset ready to go again, but with little time available to the teams, not many able to improve. Many went charging out to have another go. Others, though, sat in the pit lane, preserving tyre wear, getting ready for Q2. And amongst those that did try again, Kai Makinishi's LN Corsa Ferrari, but not able to really attack up at the pointy end of the field. And the one that did attack was the similar Ferrari, the Yogibo racing car of Naoki Yokomitsu. That going from no time at all to second fastest come the very end. Yokomitsu on his last lap, getting to within 81 thousandths of pole position, so near and yet so far, but at least he will start today's race on the outside of the front row of the grid. But provisional pole position though for Porsche, and for this car of Tanat Satorin Tirakul. Now it has Kennedy Kusiri on board, and now we are in business then, because Q2 is already underway. Field making its way out on track, and let's see what sort of times we can get down to in the next 15 minutes as Kaita Sawa goes out, replacing Hiroshi Koitsumi at the wheel of the car. 888 Princes watch their co-drivers go to work. So Porsche taking the top time in practice yesterday. Same team, same type of car, different entry, taking the top time in Q1. Looking very strong this for Porsche right now. But there's another potential pole position car. Kai Cozzolino at the wheel of 777. Goes out late, so he's had all the traffic go, so in theory he shouldn't get people in the way, shouldn't get compromised. And there, jinking down to horseback corner is Kaita Sawa. Now 888, Jasmine Jaffar at the wheel, the Malaysian driver, single-seater racer, sports car racer, GT racer, occasional broadcaster as well. And Jasmine Jaffar comes out of the S's. And again, with not too many people around him, so an absolute best he had done in the first sector, but now Nick Foster goes even quicker still by another 6:10. So Nick Foster, I think, is going to be the one that's looking, whoops, sideways in the background, but looking menacing. Sai Giara wants to watch the BMW as well, I should think, but there he is getting out of people's ways. He tries to not impede anybody. So the pros in the Pro-Am cars out on track, knowing how to drive, knowing how to treat this session, knowing how to behave. And Nick Foster, there he is, with two absolute bests, former single-seater racer like so many, came to race Formula Ford in the UK. He's been a winner in the Intercontinental GT Challenge in a Ferrari, and he comes over the timing line now to offer up the best time of the session thus far, and it's a 1:22.129. Fights the car a little bit under braking into turn one, but Nick Foster lays down a marker straight away. Mercedes 1-2, and there Kai Cozzolino making his way up towards the start of a flying lap. Slows right down, ready to try to let everybody get away, maximise the room available to him up the road, and then in a moment floor the throttle, pick up the pace at the end of the lap and go for it. Which he does now, pulls the trigger, coming through turns 11 and 12, and now Cozzolino goes for it. So Kate Cozzolino accelerates downhill. There is the AMAC Porsche. Ben Porter now at the wheel of it. Ben the two, but another experienced driver, regular gun for hire for Andrew McPherson. Right up to third has just gone number 47, which is the D station Aston Martin now with Tomonobu Fuji at the wheel of it. So that's Ben Porter, you can see hustling on his fourth in number 51 Porsche, and with a third of the session gone, heads up towards the timing line. So through goes Ben Porter. Does he go quicker? He's dropped down to fifth, he's back up to third at 1:24.466 then. So in his hands, that car should be up near the pointy end. Jasmine Jaffar back to the top of the times though now by 0.123 of a second from Nick Foster. Ben Porter is third, Tomonobu Fuji is fourth fastest, there he is, and then fifth quickest now is number 7 of Yorikatsu Tsushiko in the number 7 Comet Racing Honda NSX. We've seen the team running GT4 cars, now GT3 Honda, but this is D station, and Tomonobu Fuji goes quickest in the first sector, quicker than anybody. So now the Aston, which was good in Hoshino's hands, looking good in Fuji's hands as well. This could put it onto the front row of the grid, couldn't it? Two absolute bests for the Asia Le Mans front runner. Comes to the timing line, and Tomonobu Fuji 6th at the start of the lap, quickest at the end of it, 1:20.693. Two absolute bests and a personal best lap, and the D station racing Aston Martin up to the very top of the times. Fights the car from turn 2 into turn 3, runs it a little bit wide up onto the curb. Nick Foster's Mercedes has come into the pit lane. Kai Cozzolino has now done a absolute best in the first sector. So Kai Cozzolino on target for improvement, whereas Fuji likewise, personal best in sector 1. There is Cozzolino as Reid Harker, quickest yesterday in practice, goes second fastest, 3/10 down on Fuji. where out of all of this is candidate Kusiri. He's penultimate, the man in the car that's fastest in Q1. This is Kai Cozzolino heading towards the line. He is in the middle sector at the moment. He's done an absolute best in sector 1. So Kai Cozzolino comes then now to the exit of turn 12. And he's down in the second sector. He's lost a chunk of time in the second sector here. So for Cozzolino, it's not quite coming, is it? Across the line, and 5th at the start of the lap, and 5th at the end of it. Yeah, sectors 2 and 3 unravelled around him there. 8 minutes to go, still just about half the session, so he's okay for time, in which he can improve. Saiji Ara has now gone quicker than anybody in the middle sector. And up to 6th goes Captain Kusiri. So, we said he was languishing, he's just improved up to 12th at the times now. We don't have, by the look of it, the Sean Tong Audi on track, so David Pung's car that caused that stoppage in the first session, not on the circuit. It might be that it needs repair work, it might be that it's not returned to the team yet. We've just had an improvement also from number 2 of Yudai Uchida, looking at Saiji Ara here. Number 5. The Le Mans winner comes up to the end of the lap. Cozzolino has done an absolute best in the middle sector this time. Kei Cozzolino down in sector 1, but quicker in sector 2, so it's a strange lap in a way for him. And Saiji Ara, the fastest, now on a 1:20.597. So Saiji Ara ahead of Reid Harker, and now Cozzolino does go quickest of all. The Ferrari 1:20.223. So Kei Cozzolino up to the top of the times by 0.3 of a second, which is quite a good margin. And another weird lap down in sectors 1 and 3. Absolute best in the middle, and bang, put them all together, and that's the fastest lap of the session. So Cozzolino from Ara, from Harker, from Fuji, then Jafar Foster next up. The slowest at the moment, because again the car's gone out late, is Kyoto Fujinami. So last year's Super GT champion, with work to do, but it's interesting the way that Yogibo Racing treat the session by almost deliberately choosing not to run in the first half of it, let everybody else go out there, have a go, use their tyres, and then just get one run for their Ferrari. And it comes late in the session, and it's coming right now as Kyoto Fujinami is on track. Cozzolino, in the meantime, is down in sectors 1 and 2 and about to find himself in traffic if he's not careful here, because he's got the Audi of Akihiro Suzuki just up the road. Stays out for another lap though. Cozzolino doesn't choose to bail, stays on the circuit. And there in traffic, and therefore not being able to improve as yet, is Fujinami. But I think I'm right in saying it's only just gone out, so yeah, it is an outlet for Fujinami. So he's leaving it late. Let's see what he can do. Speed building now as he comes out of that last corner up towards the timing line, and he's got time for certainly 2 more laps, maybe 3. First of which will be okay, that'll get better and better and better. Even now, look, he's still putting warmth into the tyres as he comes over the line. The Pirelli's not yet as hot as he wants them to be, but he's on to his first flying lap of the session now. So Fujinami comes out of turn 2, drops downhill, and as he does so the Ferrari makes the run with traffic up the road, which might be a bit of a concern for him, down into the approach to the S's. The last thing he needs are the cars around. This is part of the problem about going out late. You can't really pick your own track position. He's also got one of the 888 Mercedes not that far behind him on the road. So Fujinami does a personal best, but of course he would, because it's his first flying lap, but they're not yet sparkling. It's a personal, not an absolute. And yeah, as you can see from the fact that he's still weaving left and right, he's not totally happy yet about that car and the tyre temperatures. We've had an improvement also out of Shigekatsu Wagasaki in number 60 Ferrari. Wakizaka 10th fastest now in the LM Corsa entry. Number 99, Nick Foster, back on track, 6th fastest, way out wide over the curb and onto the dirt there. That gives you an idea of how much Nick Foster is attacking the lap, and he loses out in that middle sector, having done a personal best in the first. But Nick Foster throws the car at the last corner, runs it right up to the grass, right up to the white line. And as he does so, the time he is trying to beat is his own 1:21.1. Comes to the beam, 18, 19, 20. Nick Foster goes through and a 1:21.407. So that moment on the grass cost him, lost out. Right, Fujinami's first flying lap was a 1:25.692. There is plenty more to come out of that car yet. Who has got now Fujinami behind him, so it's going to be interesting to measure the Ferrari's pace against the Mercedes. It's a personal best this time for Fujinami, but he's still about 4/10ths down on Nick Foster in that first sector. So Fujinami, if he is going to be able to improve significantly, will be doing it right at the very end. That's the pole man, and I would offer you that Kei Cozzolino is safe though as he comes into the pit lane with 2 minutes and change on the clock. That's his session done, because he's not going to go back out and do an out lap and a flying lap. So Kei Cozzolino now we'll sit and wait and hope nobody goes quicker than he has gone. So the team looking pretty pleased about that. Kei Cozzolino walked to the garage to go and talk to Takeshi Kimura to have a look at the data. How much longer is there? And he looks at the screens. Takes his hands in ice helmet off in a moment, and as he watches on, he's got 0.3 of a second in hand from Saijiara, who's in the pit lane anyway. Reid Harker has gone back out to see whether he can put the Porsche at the top of the times. Candidate Kusiri, by the way, is now 7th in the car that's quickest in Q1, and Nick Foster is up to 5th, having gone quicker last time there, 1:20.978. And you're looking at Jasmine Jaffar, who is down to 6th, so they've switched order now, the 288 Mercedes. BMW taken down the pit lane for parc fermé conditions of the scrutineering. Saijiara there having got that car to 2nd. At the start of the session, the Yudai Uchida McLaren was being looked at for an unsafe release, while the team manager has to go to the stewards at the end of the session. So, looks like that story is rumbling on. Nick Foster to the timing line. He's got to try and beat a 1:20.2. He's not going to do it on this lap. He does a 1:20.9, and thus stays 5th fastest. And up now to 7th has gone Kyoto Fujinami. So Fujinami 7th, and he's got another shot at this, I think. 888 goes through. Yeah, Fujinami's got another lap. 888 is 6th, and Jasmine Jaffar. There is Fujinami, but Ben Porter's Porsche is up the road, the AMAC car. Checker flag is out, so this is his last shot. And Fujinami is down in the first sector, so I think that's slightly unravelled on in that session. No improvement will come. We have also got, just thinking ahead to the first of the 2 races, to factor in the success pit stops, because you get the extra time to carry into a race based on results of the previous one, and it means that number 99, the Jeffrey Ibrahim Nick Foster Mercedes, gets 15 seconds, and not great qualifying. It's going to be tough to overcome potentially. 777, the Kei Cozzolino Takeshi Kimura Ferrari, 5 seconds, and GT4 Jimmy Hosokawa carries 5 seconds as well with the Hiraki Hitano Mercedes. Right, to the checkered flag then comes Kyoto Fujinami, and as he goes through, Fujinami stays 7th fastest. But pretty much everybody in the pit lane. Very, very few cars still on the circuit at the end of that session. So then number 47, Aston Martin 4th. Tomonobu Fuji's car going into its garage. quite a lot of damage sustained at Suzuka, but repaired for Fuji, and going well there as it has gone well here. So a 1 minute 20.223 for Kei Cozzolino, best time of the weekend then, and it is Kei Cozzolino on pole position for tomorrow's race, provisionally, from Saiji Ara's BMW and then Reid Harker's Porsche, with Tomonobu Fuji's Aston Martin fourth. So Ferrari, BMW, Porsche, Aston, and then Mercedes fifth. 5 different brands in the top 5. Nick Foster ahead of teammate Jasmine Jaffar. The next Ferrari comes next, Kyoto Fujinami ahead of the Porsche of Kanda Kusiri. Then it was the McLaren of Kaita Sawa ahead of 10th fastest, the McLaren of Yudai Machida. 11th quickest was the Ferrari number 60 of Shigekatsu Wagisaka, ahead of the new to the championship Audi Makihiro Tsushika, then Ben Porter, who fell to 13th in the end, with 14th being number 7 Gorikatsu Tsushiko in the Honda, and the one that didn't get to do a time because it wasn't out in the session after going off the road earlier was the number 91 Audi of Sean Tongs. That will have to start tomorrow's race from the back of the GT3 grid. So look at the highlights then of Q2 from Gt3 Cars. Lock up by Nick Foster, proof early on of just how hard he was trying in that car. Fastest early doors, however, was the D-Station Aston Martin, and the whole complexion of the session started to change once more and more cars got into a proper run, and both Nick Foster and Jasmine Jaffar taking the battle, taking those Triple Eight Mercedes closer to the front, but the Mercedes not looking as strong round here as they have at other places. The Aston Martin of Tomonobu Fuji, the D-Station car, ending the session fourth. A good effort being put in by Fuji as he went over the timing line behind Reid Harker's Porsche. Saiji Ara's BMW, almost unnoticed, just banged in one demon lap, got itself to second in the times. Saiji Ara riding the curb as he did so, but Kei Cozzolino, the car guy, Ferrari topping the times at the end of the 15 minutes. And so Ferrari it is, the fastest, and Kei Cozzolino with 0.374 of a second in hand goes into race 2 from pole position. Must go into today's opening race pretty confident as well, because that Ferrari once again is at the pointy end of the grid. Some of the cars ending their session early, making their way to the technical checks, and another one that ended its session early, Travel 7, as Kei Cozzolino brought it in. That meant that attention turned to Kyoto Fujinami's Ferrari as he tried to get the car higher up the order than 7th, but in the end it was not to be. The Yogibo Racing entry will start tomorrow's race from the 4th row after he gave it his best shot, but that was all that Fujinami could do for 7th. So, 2 grids are provisionally decided. Today's race will start at 4:10 local time, and the 7th round of Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia, the first time the cars have raced at Sugo, is going to be a really intriguing one with a good jumbled grid, and of course also 1 or 2 drivers on the hunt for points going into tomorrow's race, thinking about possibly wrapping up the championship this weekend. So we shall look forward to today's opening 1-hour race coming up a little bit later on from the Sportsland SUGO circuit. For now, teams make their way back down to the pit lane, start to analyse data, make any adjustments that are required going into today's race. With pole position for Tanat Saturn-Tirakul's Porsche. See what this opening race later on in the day is going to bring. Join us for that then at 4:10. For now though, from Sugo and qualifying the Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia,